10. Franklin Expedition Mystery. In 1845, Sir John Franklin, an English explorer, embarked on a journey to Canada with 2 ships equipped with central heating, a crew of 128, and a 3-year food supply, aiming to discover an Arctic passage connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. However, instead of success, Franklin and his crew vanished. Over 30 expeditions were launched in search of them, so many that the casualties among the search parties surpassed those of Franklin's missing crew. It wasn't until 1859 that skeletal remains were discovered, along with a logbook that ceased entries in April 1848. When Franklin's ships became trapped in ice, the crew spent nearly 2 years attempting to free them. After Franklin and 23 others perished, the remaining crew embarked on a futile march across the Canadian tundra. Part of the mystery was unraveled in 2014 when a Canadian robotic submarine located the wreckage of one of Franklin's ships beneath the Arctic ice. Divers continue to excavate the ship every summer. 9. Umbrella Man Mystery. One of the biggest mysteries of John Fitzgerald Kennedy's death in Dallas in 1963 was the so-called Umbrella Man, who appeared on footage of the attack in close proximity to the president. The wanted man could be seen with his umbrella raised just before the attack, while the sky was cloudless. His enigma rose to the level of evidence of a conspiracy. Others suspected that the Umbrella Man himself might have been the shooter. The mystery was solved in the late 1970s when the U.S. House of Representatives reopened the investigation. The wanted man turned out to be the then 53-year-old warehouse manager, Louis Stephen Witt. He stated that he disliked JFK's father, former U.S. Ambassador to Britain Joseph Kennedy, whom he blamed for supporting British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain's appeasement policy toward Hitler. Chamberlain's trademark was his ever-present umbrella, and Witt chose to brandish a large, conspicuous umbrella that day in an attempt to tease the president. 8. Anastasia Romanov escape. Several years subsequent to Bolshevik assassins corralling Tsar Nicholas II and his kin into a cellar and initiating gunfire in July of 1918, a woman identifying herself as Anna Anderson emerged in Europe, asserting to be the Tsar's youngest offspring, Anastasia. Speculations persisted regarding the possible survival of the young successor to the throne. However, in 1991, the enigma took a different direction with the revelation that the majority of the Romanovs' remains rested in a mass grave in Yekaterinburg, Russia. Yet the bodies of a boy and a girl were absent. Any glimmer of hope that Anastasia had evaded demise was extinguished in 2007, when archaeologists unearthed a secondary grave containing 2 additional sets of juvenile bones. With the entire Romanov family accounted for, it is now evident that Anastasia perished in her youth alongside her relatives. 7. Sailing stones. Since the 1940s, there has been curiosity surrounding peculiar occurrences in the desiccated lakebed of Racetrack Playa in Death Valley. Approximately every decade, hefty stones weighing up to 700 pounds inexplicably shift, leaving lengthy trails behind them on the arid desert floor. In 2011, researchers from the University of California embarked on unraveling this mystery. Due to restrictions from the National Park Service prohibiting the attachment of GPS devices directly onto the rocks, the researchers introduced 15 similarly sized stones and meticulously monitored them. After 2 years of observation, they eventually arrived at a conclusion. During winter, the playa occasionally accumulates a shallow layer of water from rainfall, which freezes overnight, forming delicate sheets of ice. As the sun rises the following day, the ice thaws and fractures, creating sheets that are then propelled by gentle winds across the icy surface, dragging the stones along with them. 6. Bermuda Triangle. It is highly likely that you have heard of the Bermuda Triangle, which, according to popular theories, contains a malevolent force that causes planes, ships, and people to disappear without a trace. Some blame extraterrestrial invaders who capture people to conduct studies on them. In 1975, librarian and pilot Lawrence David Kusha published his study of the phenomenon. After reviewing official reports of ships that paranormal authors portrayed as inexplicably disappearing, he discovered that they usually sank in bad weather conditions or suffered explainable accidents. Also, the U.S. Coast Guard does not recognize the existence of the so-called Bermuda Triangle as a geographic area posing a particular threat to ships or aircraft. 5. Mayan civilization collapse. For a long time, people have wondered about one of the strangest social collapses in human history. Why did the Mayans abandon the dozens of cities they built on the Yucatan Peninsula in 700 or 800 Common Era? In a study published in 2012, researchers at Arizona State University, who analyzed archaeological data to determine environmental conditions during the Mayas' heyday, found evidence to support a theory first put forth by historian Jared Diamond in his 2005 book, Collapse. The researchers found that the Mayans burned and cleared so much forest that they altered the Earth's ability to absorb solar radiation, which in turn caused a shortage of clouds and precipitation. This exacerbated a naturally occurring drought and caused soil erosion and depletion, resulting in agricultural decline. With less food available, workers were forced to leave the lowland cities to avoid starvation, and as a result, everything collapsed. 4. Stonehenge stone's origin. One of the most mysterious enigmas about Stonehenge, a monumental prehistoric stone circle built in England some 5,000 years ago, is the origin of the large sarsen stones, arranged in a distinctive post and lintel structure. The stones were initially thought to have originated in the North Wiltshire area, a region in southwest England, but the exact source remained unknown. In 2019, the researchers were incredibly fortunate when a man who worked on the restoration of Stonehenge in 1958 provided them with a 42.5-inch long core that had been excavated from one of the sarsens he had taken to the United States. Then, after carefully analyzing similar stones from 20 different locations in southern England and comparing their chemical composition, they were able to narrow down the provenance to the West Woods in Wiltshire, now a popular recreational area for hikers, dog walkers, and mountain bike enthusiasts. 3. Death of Richard III. Richard III, a notorious figure in English monarchy, is often depicted as one of history's most infamous villains. Despite our long-standing knowledge of his defeat and apparent demise at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, the precise circumstances of his death and the mystery surrounding the discovery of his remains have intrigued historians for centuries. However, in 2012, a breakthrough occurred when an ancient grave was unearthed beneath a parking lot in Leicester, England. Subsequent DNA analysis 5 months later confirmed that the skeletal remains interred there indeed belonged to Richard III. Furthermore, a study published in The Lancet in 2014 shed light on forensic findings indicating that Richard had sustained a total of 11 wounds, including 9 severe blows to the skull. Remarkably, the absence of defensive wounds on his arms or hands led researchers to theorize that he either lost his helmet during the battle or deliberately removed it, leaving him vulnerable to attack by assailants. 2. Tunguska event. On the fateful day of June 30th, 1908, a blazing fireball tore across the Siberian expanse, heralding an immense explosion that obliterated an area spanning 830 square miles of remote forest. Scientists later computed that this cataclysmic event, dubbed the Tunguska event after the nearby river, unleashed an energy equivalent to 1,000 times the force of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima in 1945, resulting in the demise of an estimated 80 million trees. Curiously, no crater was ever discerned. Eventually, Ukrainian researchers established that the Tunguska event was triggered by a meteor, as detailed in a 2013 article in Planetary and Space Science. Their investigation involved analyzing samples of peat dating back to that fateful summer, which revealed the presence of mineral fragments commonly associated with meteorites, along with lonsdaleite, a substance known to form in the wake of shockwaves generated by explosions. Equally significant was the remarkable similarity of this combination of elements to that found at a meteor impact site in Arizona. 1. Pyramids of Giza. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, proponents of the theory proposing that extraterrestrial beings kick-started human civilization pointed to the Egyptian pyramids as compelling evidence. They argued that the ancient Egyptians couldn't have transported these massive multi-ton stone blocks using mere muscle power, suggesting instead that alien anti-gravity technology provided a more plausible explanation. However, in a fortunate turn of events in 2014, physicists from the University of Amsterdam, scrutinizing an ancient tomb drawing, concluded that a substantial workforce could have hauled the colossal stone blocks on sledges. Additionally, they posited that pouring water on the sand in the block's path would have minimized friction, facilitating their movement into the pyramid. A small amount of water could have caused the sand particles to adhere, creating a surface akin to a paved road. Furthermore, other researchers propose that the Egyptians utilized clay as a lubricant, and it's conceivable that they employed multiple techniques in the process. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to leave a thumb up and subscribe to my channel. Feel free to share your suggestions for future episodes in the comments.